Olivia Charlton. I am a certified trauma-informed and emotional well-being life coach and previous educator, and I have the privilege of joining you for this event today. So welcome, welcome, welcome. You are definitely in for a treat today. We are going to talk about Black men's mental health and how important is that, and how awesome is it that we have two ladies that have started and paved the way for this intentional conversation for the third year in a row. So let's give it up for the fact that this is even happening. So welcome to the third annual Black Men's Mental Health Conference right here in Dayton, Ohio, even though it literally goes all over the country. We're thrilled to have you. I see some amazing familiar faces, and then I see some new faces as well. And I'm just excited to kick off this amazing event. Today we're going to tackle and talk about some real mental health challenges that we're dealing with in our communities. Together we're going to work to raise awareness. We're going to talk about solutions. We're just going to talk about being present, and we're going to make the most of this gathering. First of all, being here and letting your feet be where your head is. We're going to share knowledge, spread love and understanding, and be intentional. We're really excited about being the change that we want to see and making an impact and a difference. We are very fortunate to have two incredible women, Dr. Camelia and Deanna, who are tirelessly dedicated to this program. Their efforts, their journey, and their advocacy are the reason we are here today. This is so meaningful, and their program has had powerful impacts throughout the country. Now it is my distinct honor to introduce you to a visionary leader, a force for change, and the pioneering founder of this Black Men's Mental Health Conference. This is a movement to help shatter the stigma, rewrite the narrative on healing our community. Her work is shared across sacred spaces for Black men to reclaim their voices, their vulnerability, and their vitality. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Camelia Harris.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for being present. I was going to just take it off the top of my head, but I wanted to be a little more organized today, if you can bear with me. So today, I feel like we make history. 3 years ago, when I decided, you know what, it would be a great idea where we can gather and we can talk about the taboo that exists in our community. And so today makes the third annual year. So if I can get a round of applause that you got to. Today is actually, for me, the 9th conference, but the third one here. So I've had the opportunity with God's gift and grace to take this conference to Alabama, twice in Georgia, twice in Houston, coming up on Mississippi, coming up on LA and Compton. I don't know what that looks like, but LA and Detroit, Michigan. So I pray that he opens more doors and we can take it to all 50 states, right? But it takes people like you to keep it going. It takes our community, it takes panelists, it takes individuals to come together so that we can continue to spread this amazing news of being mentally healthy as well as physically healthy. From this ground, we soared to new heights, and today we bring the energy right back home. I am a Dayton native, born and raised. Okay, nobody from Dayton here? Born and raised, but I've had the privilege to live in Atlanta, Georgia for 29 years. But I say I have a dual residency because I come back here so often. So I'm here just as much as I am in Atlanta, Georgia. But Atlanta, Georgia is home to me as well. This is a homecoming for me, a revolution, and a reminder that healing happens when we show up, when we speak out, and when we stand together. So again, I say welcome to where the work gets real. All right, this is real. These are conversations that are not being talked about because a lot of people wake up every day with a mask, right? So I encourage you to know that it's okay to not be okay, and you are enough. You are enough. The ironic thing about life is that things will happen that is totally out of our control, but the part of you, the part you do have say so in, take care of. Give you the best that you can give you. Learn that no is a complete answer, right? I had to learn that. And being mentally healthy is just as important as physically healthy. The stories of our lives, both Deanna and I, they never get old, right? Some of you have heard it before, some of you have not. But it never gets old because someone different is listening each time. When I lost my father to suicide in 2019, the thought of regurgitating it to an audience such as yourself on a national level was never my plan. But how do many of you know that a lot of things are never our plan? I have since taken back my power from grief and decided that if I had the opportunity to save one person, it would give me back my peace, because my father said in July of 2019, when I begged him that, "Daddy, I got you. Daddy, I'm here. We here for you." And he said, "You can't save me." So I carry that with me every day. So every time I have an opportunity to bring a conference to a different city and state and execute it, I get clarity that I can save him by saving another man that looks just like him, and that's another Black man. So today is a day of therapy for me, because someone somewhere needs the dialogue that will be shared today. I thank you all for being present on this Saturday, and I'm excited for the conversations and the shared space that we will have today. 3 years ago, when I asked Deanna to join me, she'll tell you her story, but Deanna is a living example of the completed story that my father had. In addition to him committing suicide, he completed a murder-suicide. And so Deanna and I joined forces today to not only talk about suicide prevention, but also domestic violence awareness. It's not enough that, believe it or not, they're kind of interchangeable. They kind of go hand in hand. One of our panelists last year spoke and said, well, my grandmother always said, if you live long enough, you'll experience some things, right? Some knees cracking, the elbow feels a little different some mornings. But one of our panelists said last year, which rings so heavy with me as I go forward, if you live long enough, you will experience a mental health concern. It does not mean that you have a mental health issue. If you ignore it, it can become a mental health issue. So part of today is just to embrace each other, know that we are a community, promote healing, unity, but also knowledge, right? Because everybody doesn't know what mental health is. Part of our growing up, if you were running down a highway naked, losing your mind, that was mental health, but it's not. It involves so many things. It can involve anxiety. It can involve depression. So it just matters how you take care of yourself and what you give to you to make sure that you can navigate through life. Because we plan on living long in here, right? All right. Well, I thank you. I'm going to go ahead and bring Deanna up. Well, I'll bring Felicia back. And Deanna give her part of the story. So I thank you. I appreciate you. And I look forward to these amazing panelists and our keynote just sharing great information and dialogue. Okay? Thank you.
Of resilience and change. She is the visionary and founder of Live Out Loud Entertainment. Deanna Clark is a survivor of domestic and gun violence. She has transformed her pain into purpose, becoming a fierce advocate and a beacon of hope for survivors everywhere. Through courage and conviction, she empowers others to reclaim their voices and their lives. Through creating healing spaces, leading trainings, delivering impactful speeches, and collaborating with community organizations. She supports survivors of intimate partner and gun violence. She is committed to offering essential resources to those in need. Her unwavering dedication inspires countless individuals to seek healing and justice. Please welcome the other half of the founder, Deanna Clark.
Good morning to you all. Good morning to our distinguished panelists. You guys look absolutely amazing. Thank you for being here, for showing up. And thank you guys who are showing up as well. When Camellia came to me and asked, Deanna, I want to know if you would assist in this work as it pertains to Black men, and her recognizing what I had gone through and what I had endured, being shot twice at point blank range, and then my boyfriend at the time turning a gun on himself and shooting himself in the head, and we both survived that. And from that, for me, instead of being angry, being upset, shutting the world out, I turned that into a passion for those that also had suffered from or do still suffer from domestic violence. And it isn't even from the perspective of he did it, pointing fingers, but more so from the perspective of healing. What is it that I can do from my experience to be able to intercede for the next person that may go through what I've been through? What is it that I can do with my experience to be able to tap into another Black man to say, please think before you pull the trigger. Please think before you raise your hand at that person. Because again, it's not about pointing fingers. It's about the whole healing and trying to come to a solution as it pertains to domestic violence. I love this work. Again, I'm not here for myself. I do believe I went through it to be able to help someone else. And then to be able to marry it with mental health, because there obviously had to be something there. And if we can tap into that mental health piece first, maybe then we'll be able to prevent that act of violence that does occur from whatever it stems from. I'm happy to be here today. I am. It's always an honor to be before you guys, to be in this space, especially when it comes to Black men. Being able to provide a space for Black men to take off the mask, to be real, to be authentic, and talk about the issues that you face as a Black man. Because there's not a lot of space and a lot of room for Black men to talk and be vulnerable and say what they want to say without the interruption of women. Because again, we can't be chatty and interfere when it comes to men, honestly. But to be able to allow them that space, like that's what we should be doing. That's what we should be at. And to be here today to allow you guys to do this, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. If it means saving the community, saving the neighborhood, saving a family, I'm all here for it. So let's get ready to enjoy the ride. We're looking forward to hearing what these men have to say. Like, we're here to learn from you. We're here to learn from you. And so with that being said, I'm going to turn it back over to the beautiful moderator, my friend, Lethea.
So thank you for doing that. When I was asked to do this too, I did think about that. And I thought about me moderating this. And I realized I didn't think about it until this conference. My father had an overdose when I was 4 months pregnant with me. So we are all impacted by it in some sort of way. So even though I never met him, I didn't know what he was dealing with. And as a result, I ended up being in the foster care system as a result of a broken family, broken unit, and trauma. And then there was no voice. And so what these ladies have done is create voice. And then people have come to the table. So I'm really excited. And this is not to traumatize you, it's to inform you. Sometimes these things can be shocking. I'm a coach, so I have to address that. If you feel uncomfortable, you can step out of the room. Sometimes these things are informative. And then for some people, it's transformational because they never knew there were words. So this is not for that. People are in this space. It's safe to be able to have the conversation, but whatever you're feeling, honor that in the moment, but know that there could be 10 different feelings happening all at the same time, and it's all okay. Is that all right? Excellent. Thank you. So we're going to get ready for our speaker today and just let you know it's going to be interactive. You'll hear from the panelists. You'll also have a chance to do some true and false questions. And we got some great prizes up here for our men. And then after the presentation, we'll take some questions and then we'll go into a deeper conversation. So I'd like to thank the panelists and everybody who's here, and we can't wait to move forward with our program. But at this point, I am pleased to introduce our keynote for today. From Dayton's own, Mark DeWitt. He's a Dayton native from Meadowdale High School. He's a graduate from there. Mark DeWitt earned degrees from Sinclair Community College, Central State, and has a master's in higher education from Wright State University and the American College of Education. As Sinclair's inaugural African American male initiative coordinator, he developed retention strategies specifically fostering a community for Black male students. Currently, the director of Wright State University's Bilingual Cultural Center, he advises the Black Student Union. He is currently a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, while mentoring Dayton Public School students to continue to have college access. He is an extensive higher education leader. His roles include being at Central State in Wilberforce and Sinclair. In 2017, he was awarded the Leadership Fellow Award and a top 2020 African American male honoree. Mark has served on Dayton's Community Relations Council, Police Reform, and has chaired the House of Bread and remains active in Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And he's also a part of the Dayton Equity Center, and he's a part of Central State's Alumni Board, so he is intentional about the work. I welcome Mark Dewitt.
As I listen to, understanding part of Deanna's story and Felithia and Camellia and just everybody's involvement, it's intersectionality, and it's something that I learned well while I was board at the House of Bread, and something that I plan to talk about today, which is kind of the lessons that life continues to teach through all of my intersectionality. And so I love those T-shirts that came out a few years ago. I'm just a kid from Dayton, and I grew up lived in Hilltop, and my mom graduated from Sinclair, bought her first house, moved to Greenwich Village at a point, and lived there for the formative years from 85 to 95. And so, I was born in 75, so I'm a 70s baby, but I was raised in the 80s and 90s. And so, when you think about Black men's mental health, you think about the things that happened to us as a people in those times. And so you could, sociologically, anthropology, I could talk about the crack epidemic, and I could talk about where that found us. I can talk about that landed in my house, with one of my uncles, and experiencing that. You can talk about the mental load that we take on, in the various walks and things that we experience. And I'm an academic, so of course I've got notes and I've got some things, and I could just read this to you and he did okay, yeah, okay. Deanna's a genius. But I really wanted to just have a conversation, and I wanted to talk to you not as the director of the Bellinger Center or, the 10 years that I spent on this campus. But I wanted to have a conversation and talk to you about, like she talked about, I've never experienced a quote unquote mental crisis, but I grew up with a father who was bipolar. And so what I learned as an adult was that some of those periods of absence were, his period of struggle. And so I would actually say that I'm a firsthand survivor of Black men's mental health and mental illness, because of the things that my father experienced. And becoming older and becoming a larger participant in his caretaking and being the ultimate decision maker when he left his place, And so it's from those experiences that I really want to share with you. Now, I am an academic, and I do actually do things like this all the time, fairly often enough, and that's not a humble brag. It's just, year before last, I think out here in the big room, I was a graduation speaker for Gem City. I think I did a commencement address for Belmont that year. So this is not something that I'm unaccustomed to. I'm not overwhelmingly nervous. I'm a little nervous, but I'm not overwhelmed by the moment. And so in my thought process and trying to seek what to share today, and I did, I thought I was like, well, I've never really experienced a mental health crisis, but maybe I have. And so it's, as I think back in recent memory, COVID, and at a point during COVID, I was employed here. I was running the African American Male Initiative, great success. Now, this is a humble brag. When I started that process, graduation for men of color on this campus was less than 3%. Before we got to COVID, that was at 26% and higher than the national average. And so I've done the work. I've listened to young men talk about the things that they struggle with. I'm the father of 5 sons. We were just last night arguing about one of them. And so I understand the spaces that we find ourselves in as Black men in this country. So here's one of those quotes that I wrote down for you. James Baldwin said, to be a Negro in this country and to be relatively conscious is to be in a constant state of rage. And what that rage says is that I don't know what to do with this angst that I feel in my chest because I see Black men dying in the media constantly. And so, at a point during COVID, I did what a lot of us did. We made a lot of New Year's resolutions to ourselves during COVID because we had a lot of time with yourself. And I said, I'm not watching these videos of violence. I'm not watching these videos of watching us die. And a year or so later, we were sitting in a movie theater in Yellow Springs, and Dave Chappelle was premiering a documentary, and it caught me very much off guard. And I watched the full, time that, watched George Floyd be assassinated on camera. And it caught me at a very vulnerable place, because I had decided that I was not going to continue to expose myself to stuff like this. And so I would argue that in a sense, that's a mental crisis. Researchers a few years ago got into this ACEs score. And this ACEs is about adolescent trauma and how we carry these traumas that we grow up with and the things that we take in. For us, there's never been a systemic answer to those things. And so we do what we do as a culture. We go to church, we talk to our minister, your grandmother prays for you, and you keep on, and you get up and go to work the next day. And so it's in these spaces that we find ourselves as a people more suspect to disproportionate, health issues, and live in areas that subject us to if you live on a certain side of Dayton, you can always smell the trash dump. If you live in a certain area of the city, you can always experience things. And I was a kid who grew up tragically asthmatic, probably because of those areas that we lived in. And so now it is, what do you do with this recurring and growing angst in your chest about not having these answers? And so something that is constantly, and somebody's gonna feel like I'm picking on them because you're gonna hear a lot of what they say, is who do I talk to about this? And what is it that you do with that? How do you compartmentalize those places and spaces so that you can get up the next day and go to work? And how do we do these things so that we can show up as our whole selves? Where do we find strength to basically to just go on? Because systemically, and I'm a historian too, so don't be bugged by these numbers. That's what's expected of us. We get up and we continue. In 400 years, we've never had a January 6th. We get up and go to work. In 400 years of oppression in this society, we haven't done some of the things that we've seen other cultures and colors of people act up and do in society. Because we don't do that. Your mama taught you better than that. I was raised better than that. And so we see things like this video from our high school this past week, and you're like, man, ain't nobody taught them no better. What? And so my answer to that is multifaceted, and we won't get into all of that. But my thought process is that we're the heroes that we've been waiting on. Indeed. And that sounds very cliche because it's a title of a book by Eddie Glaude Jr. Also during COVID, I became a huge James Baldwin fan, read a lot. And then I became a Ta-Nehisi Coates fan, found out he's a James Baldwin fan. And then I became a fan of Eddie Glaude Jr. His whole dissertation is about James Baldwin and James Baldwin's America. And so James Baldwin in the 60s and 70s until he died in the 80s spoke truth to power in a majority way. That quote about being black and being a constant state of rage, all true. And so where does that find us now? And so where that finds us now is that as a community, one of the answers is I do think we need to go back to church. Me personally, I haven't been in a church building except to sing because I do that too since the pandemic. I haven't. I'll volunteer and go, do some things, but I haven't been in the church. And I think I picked up James Baldwin because Nikki Giovanni said in the 70s that he was the voice of Black America. And then I picked up Ta-Nehisi Coates because Nikki also said that Ta-Nehisi Coates was the next voice of Black America. And so while we are looking for this voice to kind of lead, especially in what we're going through now, intersectionality is crazy because as we talk about all these things and pieces, I work in DEI. And so a few months ago, my whole job and existence became illegal. And so how do I now answer that added knock that says that you're not supposed to be successful, you're not supposed to be happy, you're not supposed to be exuberant, and you damn not better tell anybody how you really feel, because then you're crazy. And so, grew up in a family of faith, definitely believe in prayer, I was taught that your relationship with God is north-south. It's you and him. You know, the rest of that is for everybody else here. And so I still hold that faith. But I don't know how I survive if I don't have my older brother to call and talk to walk me through it. If I don't have the people in my life who I lean on. I'm very proud, to be amongst some peers. I mean, I call and bug the mess out of Darius all the time. I've known Donnell since we grew up together. Like, went to high school, another medal line at the end of the table. And so for me, I had to learn to become social because I was not socialized as a kid. That severe asthma and trying to understand what was going on with my dad and how all those things would come into focus later. At that time, just added to the mystery. I so want to avoid making a political statement because that's not me. That's not my grounds. But, when we watch our leaders make decisions publicly that say that you don't matter, then what is the answer that we give to kids? And so, it's from that space that I want to share with you who I am. I grew up here in Dayton, single parent home. By a lot of metrics and measures, I'm exceptional. In a lot of ways, I'm pedestrian. I'm a black man. I grew up here. Parents didn't have a whole lot of money. I witnessed my mother graduate from college. I saw how that changed our lives, and I made education my focus. And so it's that space that I've been exposed to mentors and peers and friends and have some of the most phenomenal relationships in my life based on that experience growing up in Dayton. And it's from that space that I would tell people, you do have to talk to somebody. And I don't think I'm a narcissist, but I'm a pretty confident person. And generally, you look at the Bible, I lean into my own understanding. But sometimes you do need to know what somebody else has to say about it. You do need to know that you're not crazy and that angst echoing in your head as you hear and watch the world and watch decisions made and watch whatever your lens is on life about how to make decisions and how to move forward. As black men, oftentimes we are called to just kind of be that, soldier on the wall. You got to go to work for your family. You got to provide for your family. I have 5 sons. I have to be an example for them. I've led young men. I had to be an example for them. And so you feel a pull and a draw to be upright. You feel a pull and a draw to be, right, for lack of a better word. And so for me, what that's looked like is I have role modeled making better choices about who those people and what those qualifying voices in your life sound like. And so now, as a country, we hear romantic stories. Think back to 4th grade when you're in social studies and you heard westward expansion and go west, young man, go west, and manifest destiny. And all of these really, Latin would call them romantic words that glorify the story that is this country. But Ta-Nehisi Coates will tell you that, the purveyors of evil and the people that we see in the Charlottevilles and the riots and the things that we see publicly aren't necessarily evil. They're just correctly purveying the story that is this country's history. And so the mistake that America's made is a superpower in a lot of ways, and that finds us in mental spaces of feeling unheard and feeling unseen, is that they've never apologized for the atrocities that brought us here. If you ever fly to Germany, there's a mural and monuments about the Holocaust. We did that. That was us. My bad. Now we can move forward. America itself gave reparations to Japanese people who were interned after Pearl Harbor. Japanese people grew up, born and raised here, 1st, 2nd, 3rd generation Japanese. They put them in camps because they were the enemy. And so America said, you know what? And they paid reparations to them. But there's never been so much as an apology to people that look like us for the things that we've endured systemically and continue to. And so now in this current social climate, or political climate and social climate, because the politics of that have empowered people socially to act a fool And my favorite t-shirt in the last 6 years has been, don't let your president or whomever else get your, y'all know the rest. And so it's that space that we should be justified in operating to say that we're entitled. But there's nothing that we do in this society that we approach from that standpoint of entitlement. One of my friends, and Don Eric Black actually told me this. He said that black men are tragically loyal. I spent 7 years here. And, I'm gonna go back to the Bible. The Bible says it's hard to be a prophet in your own land. And so while I never felt celebrated in the sense that I thought I deserved in terms of the work that I've done here, the president used to show a slide that talked about a 550% increase in graduation for African Americans. I know I did that shit. Period. I know I did that. So when I think about the work that myself and Deshauna Yamini and Chris Welch in that area, and I think about the things that we did, I felt that for a second. I felt that sense of, I've accomplished something noteworthy. I've accomplished something that, it's a record. It's on wax. It's there. It's printed. It's provable. It's all the things that you got to do to get that PhD. But I left here because it's hard to be a prophet in your own land. And so I sought that elsewhere. And so it's from that space that I'll talk about probably my most recent mental health crisis, if you want to call it one, is having done the work, having shown and proven, having toiled the field and not feel like you've reaped that benefit. And so that's that space that I find myself now, that I've worked for 22 years in higher education. The last year I was here, I kept saying, I saved all the kids I can reach, pay me. I did my part, pay me. And so it is, how I've survived that space and that cause, and how some of those men are in this room that I've worked with, that I've turned to for understanding, for support, for assistance, for referrals, for life advice, for a conversation, to have a moment to be weak, to rant, we are the heroes that we've been waiting for. And so my job as one of those experienced people in this field is to share that. And so my one of the things that I can't manage to write in my resume or figure out quite how to word, and Felipe will help me with that later, is that I've done that. And I've done the work, and I've been in these institutions of higher education. I've worked at every institution around here except University of Dayton. And in those spaces, my job, I've always seen my job as making people that look like me feel at home there. And so that in and of itself makes me, an expert. Whatever they say is expert, whatever hours you need, I got that. And so now the charge is, how do I role model that so that the next young man who comes behind me, who needs to understand how to navigate this space, gets that everything you have is here. I worked with Dr. Carter at Wilberforce University when I left here. And it becomes, times when I probably walked in his office and we chit-chat. Dr. Carter and I would lose 45 minutes and it seemed like 5. But for both of us in the space that we were in terms of that environment, it's a reprieve, and it is a mental health break, because I get to talk smack with him for a minute. We get to talk about whatever. And in that, you leave and there's some catharsis, and you leave that room feeling lighter. You feel better. And so, the messages that we get from everyday life tell us that, work harder. The propaganda of the media is that if you work hard enough and if you stay determined and you stay focused in a certain area and you prove yourself, that basically everything will be all right. That's not really proven. But when you look at the history of us on this continent, what's proven is that we are resilient and that we will continue. And so my encouragement to you is that you understand where to find that space, that we don't continue as a community, and trust me, my faith is fully intact, that we don't continue to deify pastors and black leaders and black politicians and assume that they're going to show us the way. You're going to have to find it. I found it in my family. I found it in a lot of my peers. I found it in a lot of the community that I've built because it's in this room. I think I know somebody at every single table in here. And that we make best use of that. I'm a part of a group of brothers that has breakfast every Saturday, and I think we should be there now. But what it does is it provides a space where I don't have to be Mark or, any of my degrees, or I can just be Mark. And I intentionally take my son to that every week because he sees me and a group of black men hash it out. And we fight passionately, be it about the Bengals, Ohio State, or how to address the fact that I don't know if I have a job in a few weeks. And that's valuable. Find value in the spaces that you are happy. And I guess that's the message. I am so honored to be here, to stand up amongst my peers and, a bunch of people that I went to high school with. If anybody told us that we would be standing here now when we were in high school, God, I think me and Felicia would tell you nah. So let me leave you there. Let me leave you with James Baldwin. Let me leave you with the understanding. And I think part of the purpose of this is to understand that the black men in your lives, whether you know it or not, whether they share it or not, they're balancing a lot. And they got a lot of balls in the air. Some they'll talk about if you let them. But do that without judgment. Do that from their perspective. And just allow them that space. Because that's what this is about, creating spaces for us. To my heroes in the room, thank you. If you shared a conversation with me, if we broke bread and talk smack about just about anything, but if we've had an opportunity to get below the surface and really get into what you needed or maybe what I needed, I just want to say thank you. Keep up the good work, fellas.
And thinking about, does that resonate with you? Have you ever thought about yourself as a survivor if you dealt with mental health as a youth or in parenting and what that might mean for you? And lastly, he said something that I needed to hear because I talk a little bit, not much, but a little bit here and there. And he said, we will talk if you'll let us and you will listen. So I think that's something for us to think about in the room, from men to men and women to men, or however you identify yourself, is they will talk if we will listen. And a lot of us are so busy trying to get our point out that we can't hear. And so that's something that really resonates. I don't do that. I listen all the time. But for those of you, that was way too loud. Okay. But for those of you who don't, that's something that we can all work towards, giving the space and then allowing the conversation to take place. So thank you, Mark. We appreciate you. So now we're going to have a couple of questions for the audience and some giveaways with you today. So I have a true or false question, and I am taking hands. I will ask the host, the ladies that are hosting, to help me find whoever's out there. But the first question, please do not yell it out. Do not yell it out. I know this is very hard for some of you to get in trouble at school all the time. I know it's hard for you, but we got you. But think to yourselves in your head. First question is, true or false? Men are less likely than women to seek help for depression. True or false? First hand I see is here. Yes, sir. That is true. That is very true. Men are less likely. We have a prize for you. The size is what it is. So really enjoy this.
Everybody knows somebody.
She said, somebody will be blessed by this. We hope it's you.
So you win a t-shirt and you win a book that's called Cultural Science and Wounded Souls. And before you leave today, we'd love to get a photo of you with this book. Okay. But it'll be yours.
So with that question, you are correct, sir. Most of you answered that question correctly. Research shows that men are 3 times less likely than women to seek therapy for depression because the stigma says that men are what? weak. Men are weak and they should tough it out. But the truth is, asking for help isn't surrender, it's a strategy. And being intentional, because the strongest warriors have coaches, the smartest CEOs have advisors. And when it comes to mental health, getting support is not failure, it is foresight. So we are working to rewrite the script. The second question that we're answering in our heads and not yelling out is, you can tell I used to be a principal. Which mental health condition is reported to be more prevalent among Black men compared to their white counterparts, according to research? Which mental health condition is reported to be more prevalent among Black men compared to their white mental parts? Is it A, bipolar disorder? Is it B, anxiety disorders? C, schizophrenia? Or D, depression? I'm taking a hand.
Young lady in the back.
Back with the black
In the
shirt.
green?
Green? Yes.
Nope.
No, that is not correct, but thank
I've
you.
seen her hand several times. Depression is correct.
Depression is correct. So depression is more prevalent, and you have won a prize to get to a Black man. So, so we would like to give you the prize and the book. Thank you for answering that question.
There's another one if you want to,
Okay.
just randomly.
All right. Do you think if we were all to raise our hands, this is a question of vulnerability, so if you don't feel comfortable asking, but for our Black men, this is a question of vulnerability for our Black men. And I'll ask the man in pink who has no idea that I'm talking to him, but he nodded, so we made contact. Do you think that most of the majority of men that would say in addressing their mental health that they've had coaches, therapists, and someone to help them, or they haven't had it at all? So I'm going to ask any man in the room if you had any type of coaching, any type of therapy, any type of counselor, raise your hand.
That's amazing. Awesome. Let's clap for that.
And just by raising your hand, you're showing that it's possible and it's necessary and it's essential and it's safe. So thank you, sir. You have won a prize. So please come get your prize and bless yourself or someone else.
Let's go.
Okay. And thank you for raising your hands. I know that sometimes you can feel called out, but maybe you showed somebody that, hey, it's okay. So thank you for those of you who participated in that. I appreciate you. So now we are going to get to our panel discussion. I'm really excited to introduce our panelists. So I'm going to do an introduction of all of our panelists, and then we'll jump into our questions, okay? Y'all know you gotta respond to me. Is that okay? All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being interactive. Look at you. So the first person is Dr. Gregory, Dr. Donnell Gregory. He is the president and CEO of D. Gregory and Associates. He's a seasoned educator and leader with extensive experience in teaching, in administration, and youth advocacy. Formerly the youth commissioner of Dayton, he has served as an elementary and middle school teacher. Then he jumped to a big boss consultant who consults all over the country. Has chaired Antioch University McGregor's middle childhood, adolescence, youth adult program, and taught courses in classroom management, diversity, education, and foundations as an assistant professor. Dr. Gregory, thank you. Next, we have Brandon McLemore, who is a certified community advocate at Dayton Public Health and Montgomery County, where he works in chronic disease prevention and health promotion. As a part of Every Parent Matters program, he champions men's mental health and empowers fathers across Montgomery County. Beyond his professional role, Brandon is a dedicated volunteer and board member for both NAMI, Montgomery County, and Miami Valley Meals, furthering his commitment to community wellness. Brandon, welcome. Thank you. Can you raise your hand and make a video? Give me one of these. I knew what it meant, but thank you, Brandon. Next, we have Willie Templeton, who has served in the U.S. Army before settling in Springfield, Massachusetts, where he served as an ordained Kojic elder and led youth ministries. Relocating to Dayton in 2003, he now serves as the Greater Prayer Garden Kojic and on the ordination board of the Ohio North First Jurisdiction. Willie works as a chaplain and program coordinator at the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, tending to inmates' spiritual needs, saved, sanctified, and spirit-filled. He remains passionate about serving God and his people. Thank you for being here. Next, we have Terrence Williams, who is a Dayton native and the founder and CEO of Bridge Consulting Services, LLC. Working as an independent state social contractor and a licensed social worker, he serves as an administrator of Hope Haven for Girls Group Home and previously directed Eastway Behavioral Health Substance Abuse Program and Department. Facilitating treatment groups, he also provided clinical counseling to incarcerated men with co-occurring disorders through the Monday program. Thank you, Terrence. Welcome. Next, we have Darius Beckham here, who served as the former senior policy aide to Dayton Mayor Jeffrey Mims, focusing on youth, family development, community violence prevention, and housing stability. Between mayoral roles, he's managed the Hall Hunger Initiative's microgrants program, empowering grassroots anti-hunger efforts, a 2020 New Leader Council Fellow, and a Bloomberg Harvard City Leadership alum. Darius drives change through policy and collective action, and he is currently running for, can you tell us the position, please?
Dayton City Commission.
Yes. Thank you for being here. Next, we have Dr. Darian Green, who is a licensed independent clinical psychologist. I'm using all of my vocabulary. With a diverse experience across clinical populations and communities, a dedicated scholar, researcher, published author, and advocate for social justice, he currently serves as an embedded psychologist at the Ohio State Center for Belonging and Social Change, where he supports college students' mental health and well-being. His professional work, outside of his professional work, he proudly embraces the role of a devoted father and husband. Thank you, Dr. Greer, for being here. Last but definitely not least, we have Derek Shepard, who is a Daytonian and a Meadowdale High School graduate, a former football standout. He played at Georgia Tech on full scholarship, briefly for the NFL, the Dolphins, and the Patriots, and 8 years in arena football. Transitioning to community service, he coached youth football and worked 18 years in the Montgomery County Juvenile Detention while earning his bachelor's degree in 2020 and his master's degree in 2022 in business management and IT from Indiana Wesleyan. Now an adult probation officer, he remains committed to mentorship and positive impact. Thank you, Mr. Shepard, for being here today. These are some incredible men that are here doing the work. So can we give them a collective round of applause? So these questions that we're going to ask them individually, and you'll know who they're for, they're very relevant and necessary for Black men's mental health. So we're excited to dive right into them. We will give them 2 minutes each to elaborate on the questions given. So let's begin with the first question for Dr. Greer. Few Black male therapists exist. Actually, less than 5% in the U.S. are Black. Without culturally competent care, men are currently misunderstood. As being among the few, why do you feel so many Black men suffer in silence instead of seeking therapy, even when they're drowning in pain?
Starts on the hard, right? We don't want to be vulnerable. Like, this world has already beat us up enough, right? So, like, what's that like for me to go and lay down my life and what I'm going through and all of that to someone else? I don't want to cry. I don't want to be vulnerable. But, you know, in our profession, as we say, who counsels the counselor? I go sit down on that couch, you all, and I probably said this in 2023, Dr. Harris and Ms. Clark. I go sit on that couch once every 30 to 50 days. And when my Black woman therapist stopped taking my insurance, I said, what's your ticket out of pocket? And we've been paying it ever since, and we keep rolling our budget for it. We got to be vulnerable. And I'm not a fan of deficit-based words, but in order to be strong, so many things our keynote said, we've got to break ourselves down, so that we're not like the car sitting on the side of the road with four flats. And so I have a number of children with my wife, and I'm like, if I'm broke down and I'm tore down, how am I going to take care of them? How am I going to provide for them? So on any given day, pulling from my ancestors and being vulnerable. I'm a grandson of Archibald and Mansfield, 12 children. Today's my mother's birthday, back in our home state of Arkansas. And so when it's rough, when it's hard, I ask Lord, what would Mansfield do? Taking care of a wife and 12 children and 39 grandchildren with my grandmother, never working a day outside the home. Of course, my elders in the room know that story. You were part of that story. And so getting in there, taking care of ourselves. And I often say, I'm going to say this because I know we'll be going for a while. Everybody don't need therapy. If you don't, but still get to some of your pastor, your best friends. Be willing to take care of ourselves. And so a lot of times I'll say this and I'll stop. I will set my therapy appointment the day before I set my massage appointment. So I'm going back to back and taking care of my head, taking care of my physical, and Lord knows I need to work out more and eat better. And so, doing what we need to do, ask questions. If we don't know, ask. Shout it in the air, Get to the people now that you know are powerhouses in your city and can get you to somebody that can get you to somebody. So there's no excuse now. You see our queens in the room running things. Get to them if you don't know where to go. And so I can assist with that as well. So it's a blessing to be here and just thankful to be here again.
Thank you, Dr. You address them in ways that foster resilience.
First of all, good morning.
Good morning.
One of the most frequent trauma responses that I see in our student Black male student athletes is that most of them are keen to make it to the NFL. They're never taught a secondhand trade like skills building, technology. What can I say? They're not taught what if you don't make it. As coming up as a PB football player, you have your parents, or you would be the next Walter Payton, or and as they get older, that's all they think about is making it and making it, but nobody ever has taught them what if you don't. What do you go fall back on? You have some parents, and I get it. It's sports first, education second. And it should be the other way around. That's why they say student athletes. One thing that me and my wife tell our kids, if you don't get good grades, you don't play. That's the era that I was brought up in. You can't, you get some C's, but it's nothing better than A's and B's. Okay. And so us as Black men, or just parents in general, we have to, in my book, we have to stop telling our kids, you're going to the league. Because the percentage is small. Yeah. It's very small. I was blessed, and it's not too many others that are blessed in that aspect to at least get a taste of it. So we have to start teaching our young men and young women. You always need a backup plan if you don't make it, or pick up, like I said, another trade to succeed in. Because, if that's all you know is sports, and then when it don't happen, that's where the trauma comes. That's where the substance abuse comes. That's where criminal aspects come. Being in the adult probation now, sometimes I'm hard on myself. And I don't know the impact that I've had. And, because my coworkers is here. I have young men that's coming up to me now, oh, Big Chef, Big Chef. I don't have them call me Mr. Shepherd. None of that. They call me Big Chef. I made it past 18. So the years that I was in juvenile, I tell them, some of y'all are lucky to make it past 18. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't want to see him, I don't like to see him now. It's 25, and that's the first thing they say. But then the society that we're in, half of them don't make it past 18. So me being me, oh yeah, I see you, you know, what you doing now? I mean, I know what you're doing, but what are you doing now? The first day they come showing me pictures of their kids, their wives, and it's like a success story. And, you know, some of these black student athletes coming up don't have black mentors to talk to. You know, as a black man myself, I struggle with this. I don't open up because I feel I have an image to hold up, which I shouldn't, because I'm one of them kids where people are saying, you're going to make it to the league. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's hard for me to open up because it makes you feel weak. Like, you know, like probably pretty much the panel was saying, you know, but I'm learning. My wife made me open up. That's the first thing I'm talking. My mom, you know, she's big, you know, in my life as well, but the only thing she keeps saying is she don't want to listen. But one thing she keeps saying is put one foot in front of the other. And some of the young men that I talk to now, even our son, even our daughters, you go take some hits. Life is not perfect. You're going to take some hits. For every step you take forward, you might have to take 2 minutes. But you have to learn from it. And that's what I tell a lot of our young kids now. Nothing's going to go the way you want it to go. Just stay prayed up, stay positive, stay in the books, and keep going.
Thank you. Our next question is for Darius Beckham. Black men globally face uniquely dehumanizing stereotypes from thugs to hypersexual caricatures. How can we actively rewrite this narrative through our voices in art and leadership?
Well, I just want to say thank you for this space, first of all. This is a very, very unique space, and I think we got to stop and pause and appreciate that, because to be in a room where we can talk about being Black men and what that feels like is not an everyday thing. So I want to thank Dion and Camellia for their leadership, and our wonderful host, Felicia. I thought long and hard about this question when I first read it. And I think the simple answer, and I, of course, want to expound, but I think the simple answer is those of us that are in positions of leadership, those of us that are in spaces where we have a voice, where folks, look to us to say something. We have to be vulnerable. As Black men, I think we genuinely, those of us that, are offered a stage every now and again, we have to allow ourselves to be fully human. Because I think what often happens is there's this just perpetual sense that, the word is in question, that we are caricatures as opposed to, leaders that feel, individuals that have, mental health issues at times. And I think when we allow each other to do that, it gives permission to other Black men to do the same thing. There's also the reality of our culture, unfortunately. Some aspects of our culture glorify trauma, right? And that is, I think, something that leads to situations in which it becomes taboo, right? It becomes taboo to be to express yourself. It becomes taboo to be vulnerable. I'm the youngest of 3 brothers. My dad grew up without his father, and when my brothers and I were growing up, he pushed us really hard, right? So I'm glad that we all finished college, got our masters, right? We're my oldest brother has a family. We're doing fine, but there's one thing that I had to, in a way, start to reflect on that my dad said a lot when I was growing up, and that's, he said to my brothers and I, don't show weakness. He would say that consistently, do not show weakness. And, when I became, a young adult, I had to rethink of like, what does this actually mean, right? Because I might be in the workplace, or I might be among peers, or I might be in spaces when I do feel a moment where I'm like, I don't feel like my complete self right now. And I had to really step back and think, you know, it is okay to say I'm not okay. You know, it's okay to, to take yourself out of a space for a little while so, you can actually think about what you need to do to show up fully. And I think that we've got to just unlearn that as Black men. We really just have to unlearn, this societal expectation that we can't be fully human. Because when we show up, whether it's in any space, any arena, we should allow ourselves to just be, right? To just be.
Thank you. Dr. Gregory, the next question is for you. Why in the Black community do we call abuse discipline and suffering and strength? How do we stop passing down pain as it is a rite of passage?
First of all, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here amongst my brother. And thank you to Dr. Harris and Yana for allowing me to be part of this great panel. This is really a profound, complex question that is rooted in generational trauma, cultural norms, and societal expectations. As a kid growing up to a mother who was shot at the age of 25, no father around, oldest of 3, I was told, you gotta be tough. And tough was get hit in your chest, be a man. You gotta go out here and face what society is gonna offer you. And nobody cares about you crying and you feeling less than everybody else. See, we were on welfare and we had no other means to survive. So being tough was, you're the oldest, so you got to be the man of the house. And being a man is not showing emotion. It's not showing that you're weak. And for me, or any other people that might go through that, that's really not a physical abuse, but it's mental abuse. Mm-hmm. And so mental abuse is what's leading a lot of Black men that's suffering and can't show that because it's a sign of weakness. And so when you show a sign of weakness, that's oppression. And you want to talk, but it's sometimes, and listen to this, sometimes people, when you talk to people, they, as they would say, they listen to respond and not listen to understand. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, before you can even get it out, they're already responded to something you haven't even, and you just say, forget it. I'm done. And so that coach, that harbors those things, and like our guest speaker was talking about, it's this ancient your chest, and you feel that. And so at an alarming rate, our Black men are dying at the age of 76. 76, that's young. Because they're holding all that in, they're feeling anxious, not willing to express themselves, because it's society that's putting pressure on us that we have to be the man of the family, we have to be the head of the house, so we have to be strong, and we can't show weakness. It's oppression. It's masculinity expectations. And so if you don't have that group of mentors or she-tors, I like to call it, it's hard to really express yourself and let those things out. The second part of the question, how do we stop passing? How do we, what's the danger of passing it down? I took some notes because I don't know why I'm nervous. I got speaking in front of 300 people. It's like I was telling my one of my mentors, who was my brother too, Dr. Carter, Paris Carter. We talk all the time. Mark talked about Dr. Carter. I was like, oh, I'm so nervous. Like, bro, you do this all the time. And we talk all the time, but it's like, I don't know, I don't know if you heard earlier when I was starting to talk, I was getting emotional because it's a passion of mine. And so I think too many times we don't have this forum and we don't have these conversations that's really needed. And so it's emotional because I'm glad I'm able to talk freely about what's really happening. And this is me. This is me. I'm expected to be this person. But underneath, I'm like, I'm hurting. Well, who can I talk to that kid? Oh, you're Dr. Graver. You this, you did, you got this, your fancy suits, your nice car. But they don't understand underneath there's other things that I'm hurting. It's hard to be a black man in society now. Why? Because sometimes I'm in a room full of people like this, and I'm the only thing of color that's in there. And so I gotta have this expectation that I have to be like, oh yeah. All right, I'm off my soapbox. Let me give you four quick points. How do we stop passing that down? One, we have to reframe what discipline is.
Yeah.
Right? So discipline is not getting hit in the chest, getting like my mom, getting your ass whooped, right? With the belt, the stitching cord for me, I had to go pick my own switch off the tree at the time. Y'all know nothing about that. So that was it, right? That was. So we have to reframe what is discipline. So when I married my wife, 22 years ago, I thought discipline. We have 2 kids and a grandkid now. But I thought discipline was when you whip somebody so they know that they shouldn't do that anymore. But she says she never got whipped. And she grew up in the hood. So I'm like, how you never got a whooping? But discipline with her was her mom was talking to her about what is wrong, what is right, and having her reflect on what to do next. It's decisions. That's reframing discipline. My next point is healing from trauma. I know a lot of us have been through some type of trauma. My mother was shot at the age of 25, I was only 9. She was addicted to crack cocaine. It was a lot. That's trauma for me, growing up as a black male. I'm in schools every single day and I see kids going through trauma. They can't even talk to each other right now. It's that bad, post-COVID. Redefining what is strength. So we have to redefine what is strength. What does it look like, feel like, sound like? And then the last thing I'll say is we need to create safe spaces like we have here today. Like the founders of this Black Men's Mental Health have created the underpinnings that will help us grow and prepare for the future. So thank you guys.
Our next question is for Terrence Williams. Black men's suicide rates are raising fastest amongst any group, yet we rarely talk about it. What shame or barriers keep men from admitting when they're at their breaking point?
First of all, let me say good afternoon. It's afternoon now. Good afternoon. Honestly, let me do it this way. The question actually been answered. You see the word shame in there. You heard a lot of the individuals so far that spoke, even the keynote speaker, about being vulnerable, bare, stained, guilty. I want to just, if I could, reflect just a little bit that we don't talk about enough, and I'm going to add it to it. We forget about the do or diagnose part of this process. The substance abuse about this process. I'm going to come from an expert. I've been doing kind of criminal dependency since 2002, and we don't talk about it enough. And I'm just going to break it down real quick. When I hear the word illicit substance, the prefix of illicit, sil, substance, sub, under, stands.
Come on.
What they don't realize a lot of times is that we're not understood. So we don't take a stance. So a lot of us go use substances, illicit substances, because I'm sick, to try to make sure I can maintain, so I can stay functional, so I can be that individual that you want me to be. Because again, I'm scared because of vulnerability. I'm scared because of the stigma that's been placed on me. I'm scared because of having to wear this macho or you the man of the house. Grew up like you, Doc. I'm the man of the house. Father on drugs. Abused my mom. So now I want to rescue everybody. I want to protect everybody. For those that don't know, Deanna's my first cousin. When she called me and told me about the trauma that she went through, I was on some ratchet kind of stuff. I wanted to get at it.
Yeah.
But what I realized, he was broken like I was. And I wish today I could have called him then to let him know he was hurting too. And y'all heard what I'm saying, hurt people.
That's right.
So to answer the question, but listen, I was saying honestly that one of the biggest things is we don't realize that we're battling just not mental health, we're battling substance abuse too.
Yeah.
Because we try to mask it and we use things such as that to try to just deal with the mental health part of it. And it's overlooked. See what I'm saying? So that, I would say, I guess to me, the breaking point, how to get them, to be honest, I got tired. And I became vulnerable, real vulnerable. And I'm fortunate to have a support system. I got a great support system. I can say that. I can get vulnerable with them and not be judged. So the hardest thing is being able to share and not be judged as a man, especially black man. Thank you.
Thank you. Round one, our last question is for Brandon McLemore. The strong man stereotype teaches you all to suppress pain, but how does that silence fuel depression, isolation, or even violence in our homes? How do we redefine strength to include vulnerability?
Barrier?
Yeah.
Okay. So I tried it because I tried to sit in the middle so I wouldn't be first or last. So but I think in the simplest terms, thoughts, feelings, and emotions are, especially considering how volatile they can be, are meant to be expressed. And in other words, released. When we don't, that silence, I think, causes buildup. I think with anything else, when there's a ton of buildup, it compromises the very structure that houses the buildup. In our case, us. So I think there's a few ways, or a couple of ways, to mitigate that. One is understanding that our vulnerabilities are literally strengths. For the simple fact that it's a hard thing to be vulnerable, as we all have pretty much kind of alluded to today. It is truly hard. Perhaps we tried to be vulnerable before and someone made us feel less than for doing so. From that moment, we decided never again because it's hurt, all right? But that's what makes it a strength because it's not an easy thing to do. And your strength is not tested when things are easy. So I think it's understanding that your vulnerability, no matter what it is, all of the above, it is a strength. Secondly, it's understanding the circles in which we travel, right? It's understanding the difference between those who merely claim to support us versus those who actually do. In the simplest terms, everybody ain't your people. Everybody does not deserve your vulnerability. So you have to identify who are those people who really love us enough to actually take the time to listen and care for us and not mishandle where we're coming from, right? I have family, I have friends, I have family that's not blood, I have blood that ain't family. You just really have to identify who those people are, right? Everybody's not equipped, even if their heart is in the best place for you, they're just not equipped to handle you properly. So understanding who those people are is imperative. Because everybody does not need to hear what your issues are because they have their own issues and they don't know how to handle it. So once you identify those people, whoever they might be, and that looks different for each and every one of us, then you can succeed at being vulnerable.
Thank you.
Correct.
Thank you. And in this round, our next question is for Willie Templeton. We're told to pray it away or man up, but what happens when faith isn't enough and her pain turns into violence in the Black community? How do we demand professional care without feeling like we're betraying our culture?
That's a good one.
Well, as when faith isn't enough, I struggled with that statement. That because in my world, faith is always enough, but faith without works is dead.
That's right.
Our speaker said something earlier about the relationship that we have with God. It's north-south. But if you really want to see what the relationship with this north-south relationship is, this east-west needs to be right.
That's right.
So when things are happening, yes, get to the church. Get to the church. Absolutely. Talk to your pastor. But in the world we live in today, every pastor is really not equipped to deal with mental health, mental health concerns, or mental health issues. So if they, yeah, I hear you, or their mental health. So a good leader will say, hey, I can't handle this. I know somebody that can.
That's right. That's right.
Let's make a phone call.
That's right.
So when faith is not enough for that individual, I always say, call somebody. I agree wholeheartedly. You have to have some outside help. Jesus said it like this. He said, the well need not a physician. All of us in here have been to the doctor for a cold. We've all been there, right? You didn't sit at home and pray about it. I pray, Lord, let this thing go from me. But I picked the phone up or got on my computer, sent a note to my doctor, send me a prescription for an antibiotic or something, because I need some more help.
That's right.
God is still God
That's right.
at any moment in our lives. But this is the thing I love about him more than all. He uses other people to help us get better.
Yes, right, sir.
Thank you. Not to say because a lot was already said, right? Is anybody full today?
Yeah.
Yes. Let's give a big round of applause because I can hear them being on that today. I'm just close this out by asking you, who's on your team? If you're only talking to you, you're in trouble. So be intentional about the people that are on your team, reevaluate your team, trade your players, get new players, huddle up, talk to somebody, but make sure that you have people on your team because a team of one is not a team. So just thank you for your time. Thank you, ladies, for doing this. And thank you to our wonderful panelists. Everybody, be intentional about your mental health and help someone else. Have a good day.